In an already charged American political climate marked by ideological tensions, incessant media clashes, and unprecedented social polarization, an unparalleled judicial storm had risen, crystallizing all passions around a man who had become both an icon and a pariah. A technological genius and a disruptor of institutional balances, Elon Musk. Musk, tech mogul and head of several emblematic companies such as SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, and especially X, formerly Twitter, a platform that had become the stage for all informational and ideological battles. Where democratic debates flourished alongside misinformation campaigns, presidential statements, and the worst conspiratorial excesses. This situation placed Musk at the heart of a national controversy when, bolstered by his vision of a truly free internet, he decided, in the name of the First Amendment, to restore on X accounts that had been banned for years, including those of individuals convicted of inciting hatred, electoral misinformation, or calls to violence. The ensuing legal confrontation brought Musk face to face with Judge Amy Coney Barrett, a figure emblematic of the current judicial landscape, whose decisions were often scrutinized and debated in the public sphere. The courtroom became a battleground for competing ideologies, with Musk defending his actions as a necessary step towards free speech and Barrett questioning the implications of such decisions on societal norms and the rule of law. As the trial unfolded, it revealed the deep fissures within American society regarding the limits of free expression, the responsibilities of tech giants, and the role of the judiciary in mediating these conflicts. The media frenzy surrounding the case amplified the stakes, turning the courtroom into a spectacle that captivated the nation, with commentators on both sides of the political spectrum weighing in on the implications of the verdict. The trial not only examined the legality of Musk's actions but also served as a reflection of the broader cultural wars raging across the country, highlighting the challenges of navigating a digital landscape fraught with misinformation and divisive rhetoric. Ultimately, the confrontation between Musk and Barrett became a symbol of the ongoing struggle to define the boundaries of free speech in the digital age, raising questions that would resonate far beyond the confines of the courtroom. Drawing the ire of major civil rights organizations, federal agencies, and a significant portion of the Democratic Congress, Musk was seen as undermining democratic coexistence, endangering institutions, minorities, and truth in the public space. After months of controversies fueled by the media and congressional hearings, Musk persisted in his refusal to comply with moderation injunctions, believing the federal government should not intervene in the management of a private platform. The matter eventually reached the highest judicial spheres of the country. The Department of Justice filed a constitutional appeal before the Supreme Court, arguing that X's practices posed a serious threat to public safety. The appeal argued that it was necessary to legally regulate recommendation algorithms, restore control over viral content, and reaffirm the state's role in combating digital misinformation. Musk responded with a spectacular counteroffensive, arguing that any attempt at state interference in the governance of X violated the free speech guaranteed by the First Amendment. He launched a large-scale media campaign that shook the institutional foundations of the country, until the historic hearing before the Supreme Court was scheduled, transformed into a global event, broadcast live. Followed by millions of American citizens and foreign observers, a flamboyant, provocative, and determined Elon Musk faced off against Judge Amy Coney Barrett, the key figure of the conservative majority of the court. Musk was represented by an army of libertarian constitutional lawyers, while Barrett's reserved demeanor, piercing gaze, and incisive rhetoric gradually structured the exchanges in an atmosphere of extreme tension. The first days of the hearing were marked by verbal justs of rare intensity, where Musk's lawyers defended an absolutist view of the First Amendment, insisting that the government had no right to require a private company to censor or prioritize certain content. Meanwhile, the government, represented by a combative attorney general, argued that X, as a de facto public space, held a social responsibility not to become a vector of chaos, and that freedom of speech should not turn into a right to harm, poison, or incite riots. Judge Barrett, whose impressive calm contrasted with the agitation of the parties, posed targeted questions, challenging both sides in turn, exploring the doctrinal limits of jurisprudence on hate speech, the boundary between private sphere and public interest. In a now legendary moment, she abruptly interrupted one of Musk's lawyers who was mentioning Silicon Valley as the new guardian of freedom, stating, "The First Amendment is not a silicone totem, it is a constitutional promise that requires discernment, not idolatry." triggering a glacial silence in the room, while Musk, eyes narrowed, observed this woman who suddenly seemed to embody the entire American judicial apparatus set against him. Yet, as days passed, the court's position appeared increasingly divided, with some progressive judges seeming open to the idea of legally framing platforms, while others, even conservatives, rejected any intervention perceived as state interference, fearing an authoritarian drift. In this legal haze, Barrett played a central role in attempting to redefine the contours of jurisprudence suited to the digital age, questioning Musk at length about his own ethical responsibility, about the moderation choices he had deliberately abandoned, about the effects of Russian disinformation campaigns or anti-vaccine propaganda spread on X. To this, Musk responded, in a tirade that went viral, that he preferred 1,000 lies and 1,000 truths in a free public square rather than a single narrative imposed by the state. Defending the vision of an anarchic yet democratic internet against a regulated digital world subjected to the ideological injunctions of power. He then launched into a sweeping critique of institutions, media, NGOs, and everything he called the techno-bureaucratic complex, eliciting both enthusiasm from his supporters and horror from his detractors. After weeks of hearings, debates, submitted briefs, fiery editorials, and protests outside the court, the decision was rendered in an explosive context, by a narrow majority, where Barrett, in a lengthy and nuanced judgment, admitted that the state could not directly impose an editorial, but that, on the other hand, certain algorithmic practices, notably the systematic promotion of toxic content, could be framed in the name of the public interest, thus paving the way for indirect, cautious, targeted but legally legitimate regulation. This was interpreted as a partial victory for both sides, but above all as a reaffirmation of the central role of the Supreme Court in arbitrating digital freedoms. Barrett rose as a pivotal legal figure, while Musk became a polarizing free speech symbol, making history by partly swaying the Supreme Court on truth, lies, and speech rights. In a world governed by data, algorithms, and passions,